Kira, after 15 years with TechVantage, we're restructuring your position. Marjorie Thompson's words cut through the air like a blade I'd been watching fall in slow motion for weeks. She sat across from me in the sterile conference room, all white walls and glass tables, with Denise from HR positioned beside her like a backup singer. Both wore those carefully practiced sympathetic expressions, the kind corporations probably teach in weekend seminars titled How to Fire People Without Lawsuits. The company is moving in a new direction, Denise added, her manicured nails sliding the manila folder toward me. The folder was thick, expensive looking. They'd at least made my execution look professional. 15 years. 15 years of my life, and this is how it ends. My mind flashed through a rapid montage. Late nights debugging code while the office sat empty. Weekends spent refining algorithms while my friends went hiking. Holidays sacrificed because just one more breakthrough always seemed within reach. I'd given TechVantage everything, my 30s, my 40s, and now they were taking the first chunk of my 50s too. I kept my face blank as I accepted the folder, even though my hands wanted to shake. My fingers felt numb, disconnected from my body. Inside would be the standard severance package, 2 weeks for every year of service. 30 weeks to figure out my life at 55 in an industry that worships 25-year-olds who know React but have never heard of legacy systems. I understand, I said quietly. My voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Relief washed over their faces like a wave. I could practically see their shoulders drop. They'd probably run through scenarios in the bathroom beforehand. What if she cries? What if she makes a scene? What if she throws something, but I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction? Not when I'd seen this coming a month ago, not when that misdirected email had landed in my inbox at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, this spy. One where Victor and Marjorie casually discussed transitioning Kira out like I was outdated software instead of the person who'd built their entire technological foundation from scratch. We'll need you to clear out by Friday, Marjorie continued, her confidence growing with every second of my silence. She leaned back in her chair, already mentally moving on to her next meeting. Your team will be notified this afternoon. We'll handle the transition internally. My team. 6 brilliant engineers I'd personally mentored, trained, defended in budget meetings. The same people who'd helped me develop the algorithm that now powered AccountSphere, TechVantage's flagship product. The software making them millions every quarter while I got cost of living raises and a coffee mug that said, "Innovation starts here." Of course, I replied, standing smoothly. I'll have everything packed by end of day Friday. Marjorie blinked, clearly surprised I was making this so easy. We appreciate your professionalism, Kira. It really speaks to your character. I wanted to laugh. My character, as if professionalism was some generous gift I was bestowing on them, rather than the armor I'd learned to wear over 15 years of being overlooked. As I walked back to my office, I passed Victor's glass-walled conference room. Through the transparent walls, I could see him gesturing enthusiastically at a PowerPoint titled Q3 Revenue Projections. Projections built entirely on my algorithm, my code, my 3 years of problem-solving. The same Victor who'd stood at last year's Tech Innovate conference in San Francisco, accepting thunderous applause for his company's groundbreaking innovation, calling me nothing more than one of our talented research team members in a passing. Mention that lasted exactly 4 seconds. I'd timed it. 4 seconds of recognition for 3 years of work. I closed my office door and pulled out my personal phone, the one TechVantage didn't monitor. It's happening. Friday is my last day. The response came immediately. Perfect timing. Contracts are ready. Dinner tonight at 7 Corner Booth. I stared at my reflection in the darkened computer screen. 55 years old, gray threading through my dark hair like silver wires. Bags under my eyes from too many late nights perfecting code that someone else would claim credit for. Wrinkles that mapped out every time I'd smiled and nodded while younger, less experienced men got promoted over me. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm making the biggest mistake of my life? What if they find something I missed? But then I thought about that email. About 15 years of being invisible. Of being Kira from research, instead of Dr. Kira Jennings, senior algorithm architect. About watching Victor take credit for my innovations in every board meeting, every press release, every industry panel. No, I wasn't making a mistake. I was finally making the right choice. For the first time in 15 years, I was choosing myself. That evening, I met Gregory Sullivan at Meridian, an upscale restaurant in the financial district, far enough from TechVantage's headquarters that no one would accidentally spot us. The place was all dark wood and leather, the kind of establishment where deals happened in hushed tones. Greg ran Precision Systems, TechVantage's biggest competitor, and he'd been quietly reaching out to me for months. First through LinkedIn messages that seemed casual, then coffee meetings that felt coincidental. Then, 3 months ago, a direct proposition. If you ever get tired of not being valued, call me. I'd kept his card in my wallet ever since. They actually went through with it, he said, shaking his head as we sat in a private corner booth. He was older than me. Early 60s, silver-haired, with the kind of calm confidence that comes from building something from nothing. Firing the person who created their entire platform. What were they thinking? Victor never understood what I created, I replied, my voice bitter despite my best efforts to stay professional. To him, it was just tech stuff. Pretty interface, good marketing copy, aggressive sales tactics, that's all he cares about. He thinks innovation happens because he wills it into existence. Greg leaned forward, his expression serious. Tell me about the patent situation. You said on the phone there were complications. This was the part that still made my stomach flip, even though I'd rehearsed this conversation a dozen times in front of my bathroom mirror. 3 months ago, I'd asked TechVantage's legal team about filing the patent for my distributed processing algorithm, the breakthrough that made AccountSphere actually work. Without my algorithm, their software was just another bloated accounting platform that crashed during tax season. Oh, we'll handle that, Associate General Counsel Bradley Worth had assured me with dismissive waves of his hands, not even looking up from his phone. Just routine paperwork, corporate stuff. You know how it is. But something felt wrong. Bradley's casual dismissal. The way Marjorie suddenly started asking questions about my documentation practices. Victor's pointed comments in meetings about team efforts and collaborative innovation. So I dug into the company's internal files. I had senior access. They'd never bothered to segregate permissions properly because they never thought I'd actually look. That's when I found the strategy memo, buried in a shared drive folder labeled Q4 Planning. Claim algorithm as company-developed technology. No specific inventor attribution. Transition Kira out before patent filing to avoid complications with inventor rights. Legal confirms this approach minimizes future royalty exposure. They were planning to erase me entirely, not just from the present, but from history. I couldn't let that happen, I told Greg now, my voice shaking slightly despite my attempts at control. So I started working on improvements to the algorithm, on my own time, on my own equipment. 43% efficiency boost, better error handling, improved scalability, all documented with timestamps, development logs, everything. And you filed for the patent yourself? I nodded, still half expecting someone to burst through the restaurant door and tell me I'd broken some rule I didn't know existed. Last month, your IP attorney, Sarah Chen, helped expedite it through the provisional application process. She's brilliant, by the way. Greg slid a folder across the table. It was much thicker than the one Denise had given me that morning. Then let's make this official. Precision Systems wants exclusive licensing rights to your patent. Chief Innovation Officer position. 7-figure signing bonus. Equity stake. Royalties on every implementation. My hands trembled as I opened the folder. The numbers blurred in front of me. More money than I'd made in 5 years at TechVantage. More money than I'd ever imagined having. What about my team? I asked, my throat tight. Miguel, Anita, James, David, Sophie, Rachel. They don't deserve to get caught in this. They're good people. They just work for a bad company. Already handled. 6 positions, senior level, significant raises, better benefits. If they want them. No pressure, no strings. They've earned the opportunity. I picked up the pen, hesitating for just a moment. My hand hovered over the signature line. This is it. No going back after this. Once I sign, I'm declaring war. Then I thought about Marjorie's satisfied smirk as she'd slid that folder across the table. About Victor's dismissive hand wave at the conference. About Bradley Worth's casual, "We'll handle that," while he planned to steal my life's work. About 15 years of being told to be grateful for the scraps while everyone else ate the feast. I signed my name clearly, Firmly, Dr. Kira Jennings. To new beginnings, Greg said, raising his glass of wine. To finally being seen, I whispered, clinking my glass against his. Thursday and Friday crawled by like a slow death. I packed my desk in silence while former colleagues avoided eye contact in the hallways. Some of them knew something was coming. They could sense it the way animals sense earthquakes before they hit. But nobody said anything. The culture of silence ran deep at TechVantage. Sarah from accounting stopped by my office Thursday afternoon. We'd had lunch together maybe twice in 10 years. I heard, she said quietly, hovering in my doorway. I'm sorry, Kira, it's not fair. It's business, I replied, repeating the phrase they'd taught me to accept. Still not fair? She insisted, then disappeared before anyone could see her talking to me. During my exit interview Friday afternoon, Denise robotically went through her checklist. She read each item in that carefully neutral HR voice, the one designed to convey information without emotion. You understand that any intellectual property developed during your employment belongs to TechVantage? Of course, I replied smoothly, each word carefully chosen. Anything developed during work hours, using company resources, within the scope of my employment. I emphasized those qualifiers, but Denise was too busy checking boxes to catch the significance. She wasn't listening for what I was actually saying, just confirming I'd said something compliant. As I packed the last of my personal items, family photos, conference badges from 15 years of industry events, the coffee mug my team gave me last Christmas that said, "World's Best Mentor," Marjorie appeared at my door. Just wanted to make sure everything's clear, she said, with false sweetness, leaning against the door frame like we were old friends having a casual chat. Crystal clear. You know, Kira, these decisions are never personal. Victor just feels the company needs to move in a more youthful direction, fresh perspectives, new energy. You understand. I met her eyes directly for the first time all week. I understand completely. Business is business, right? Nothing personal. Something in my tone made her pause, uncertainty flickering across her face for just a second. Her smile faltered. Taking some time off? She asked, recovering her corporate mask. Actually, I start a new position Monday. Oh? Surprise cracked through her careful composure. That's fast. Remarkably fast. I smiled, the kind of smile I'd practiced in the mirror. Yes, a leadership position at a major firm. Chief Innovation Officer, actually. I'm very excited about the opportunity. Her face went pale. Which firm? I'll let them announce it, I said pleasantly. You'll see soon enough. As I walked out of TechVantage's glass building for the last time, I turned back to look at the top floor. The executive conference room glowed with light. No doubt Victor and his team were already discussing how to redistribute my work to cheaper, younger employees who'd accept lower salaries and never question their treatment. Enjoy the next 72 hours, I thought, adjusting the box in my arms. They're the last peaceful ones you'll have for a very long time. Monday morning, I dressed in my new charcoal power suit, the one I'd bought specifically for this day. Professional but powerful. I stared at myself in the mirror, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might be sick. What if this backfires? What if they find some loophole in the patent filing? What if they have lawyers who discover something we missed? What if— No, stop. I documented everything. Triple-checked every detail. The patent was legitimate, filed properly, completely defensible. I'd done nothing wrong. I'd just done it right. The Precision Systems town car arrived at 7:30 sharp. Black and sleek and exactly on time. The press release goes live at 9, Greg told me as I settled into my new corner office, a space 3 times larger than my old cubicle, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Industry newsletters are picking it up at 9:15. Major tech blogs by 9:30. It's all coordinated. I pulled up the announcement on my phone, reading it for the 20th time, even though I'd memorized every word. Welcome's creator, Dr. Kira Jennings as Chief Innovation Officer Precision. Systems today announced the acquisition of exclusive licensing rights to the distributed processing algorithm that has revolutionized cloud-based accounting systems. Dr. Kira Jennings, the algorithm's creator and inventor, joins Precision Systems as Chief Innovation Officer with immediate effect. My hands shook as I read it. This was real. This was actually happening. No turning back now. At 9:15 a.m., exactly on schedule, my phone buzzed. Complete chaos here. What did you do? Miguel I smiled and typed back. Check your personal email. All 6 of you have offers waiting. Better titles, better pay, better respect. Through Miguel's texts over the next hour, I watched TechVantage implode from 8 miles away. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. Victor's losing it. Actually yelling in the conference room. Legal team is tearing apart your employment contract line by line. They're pulling every server from research. Looking for proof you stole something. Bradley Worth looks like he might have a heart attack. Board members are calling in. Someone said the stock dropped 7% in an hour. 7%. Marjorie's locked in her office. Won't answer her phone. At 10:45, my phone lit up with an email from Victor himself. Kira, there appears to be a significant misunderstanding regarding your recent actions. We need to discuss this immediately. Please call my direct line. This is urgent. I forwarded it to Precision Systems' legal team without responding. Sarah Chen called me 30 seconds later. Perfect, she said. Don't respond to anything directly. Let them panic. Their legal team is probably telling them right now just how badly they messed up. How are you feeling? Greg asked, appearing at my door with 2 cups of coffee. Terrified, I admitted honestly, accepting the coffee. And validated. And guilty about my team, and I laughed shakily. I don't know. Everything at once, like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. That's normal, he said gently. You just pulled off something most people only fantasize about in their darkest moments of frustration. By noon, the tech industry was on fire with speculation. TechVantage's stock had dropped 9%. Precision Systems had jumped 12%. 3 major tech journals wanted interviews. My LinkedIn had 47 messages from recruiters who'd ignored me for years. My phone buzzed again. Victor called emergency all hands. Looks ready to explode. Tried to spin it as minor setback, but nobody's buying it. Half the room is on LinkedIn. P.S. We all accept. When do we start? Miguel I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. My team was safe. Whatever happened next, they'd be okay. That was what mattered most. By Tuesday, reality had fully set in at TechVantage. AccountSphere, their flagship product, their primary revenue source, relied entirely on my algorithm. Without licensing rights, they faced 2 choices: negotiate with Precision Systems on our terms, or rebuild everything from scratch. Rebuilding would take years. Cost millions, require expertise they'd just fired. Rumor is they're going to sue you, Miguel texted from what would be his last day there. Bradley Worth was talking about theft of intellectual property, breach of fiduciary duty, whatever they can think of. I forwarded the message to our legal team. The response came within minutes from Sarah Chen. Let them try. Your documentation is impeccable. Every improvement was made on personal time, personal equipment. We're ready for this. Actually, we're hoping they sue. It'll just generate more publicity about how they tried to steal from you. How's the team integration planning going? Greg asked during our afternoon meeting. The engineering team loves the efficiency improvements, I replied, trying to focus on work instead of the anxiety gnawing at my stomach. 51% performance boost in early testing. Better than even I projected. Better than projected. I had refinements I never shared with TechVantage, I admitted, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. After I found that memo about pushing me out, I saw no reason to give them my best work anymore. Why would I? So they could take credit and erase me anyway? Greg's expression darkened. They really thought they could just erase you, like you were nothing. A 55-year-old woman in tech, I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. I'm sure they thought I'd disappear quietly. Maybe find some part-time consulting work. Teach at a community college. Fade away gracefully and be grateful they'd given me anything at all. Instead, you became their worst nightmare. At 3:30, Miguel sent his final update from TechVantage all-hands meeting was brutal. Victor tried to sound confident, but his voice was shaking. Marjorie almost fainted when someone asked directly if they forgot to file the patent. Bradley Worth literally left the room. It was beautiful chaos. People are openly interviewing. Nobody believes the minor setback story. Wednesday brought industry-wide shockwaves. 2 major TechVantage clients, Morrison Financial and Delgado Enterprises, contacted Precision Systems about switching providers. Our stock climbed another 8%. Then Denise called. the same HR woman who'd slid my severance package across the table just 6 days earlier. "Kira," she began, her professional mask slipping for the first time. "We'd like to discuss the situation with your patent. There may have been a misunderstanding about the development timeline." "There's no misunderstanding," I replied calmly, though my heart raced. "My employment agreement clearly states that IP developed on my own time, using my own resources, outside the scope of my employment belongs to me. The patent documentation proves exactly that. Timestamps, development logs, purchase receipts for equipment, everything. Victor hopes you'll consider coming in to discuss a potential arrangement. Any discussions go through Precision Systems' legal department. They'll be happy to discuss licensing terms. Market rate is 3 times standard for revolutionary technology, plus inventor acknowledgement." The silence stretched painfully. "I'll pass that along," Denise finally said, her voice small. That afternoon, I presented to Precision Systems' board of directors for the first time. Standing at the head of that conference table, not tucked in the back corner like at TechVantage, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. This is what respect feels like, I realized. This is what I've been missing for 15 years. By Friday, 1 week after my firing, TechVantage was in full crisis mode. Stock down 23%. Industry analysts publishing articles with headlines like, "Can TechVantage survive the algorithm crisis?" and "The cost of undervaluing innovation." "They're interviewing for a new development team," Miguel told me during our video call. He and my former team were preparing to start at Precision Systems the following Monday. Posted on LinkedIn, offering huge salaries. Victor claims they can recreate the functionality in 6 months. I actually laughed. The original took me 3 years, and I understood every nuance of the problem space, every edge case, every optimization. They'll be lucky if they manage something functional in 18 months. Nobody's buying it, especially after all 6 of us resigned simultaneously. That sent a message. TechVantage's attorneys finally reached out about licensing through official channels. Our legal team responded with terms that were technically fair, but strategically painful. 3 times standard industry rates, public acknowledgement of my role as the algorithm's inventor, and royalties on every implementation. They'll fight the acknowledgement harder than the cost, Greg predicted during our strategy meeting. Victor's ego won't allow him to admit he pushed out the person who created everything. He's built his entire reputation on being the visionary founder. Then they'll have to rebuild, I replied quietly, feeling surprisingly calm about it. And every day they waste negotiating is another day we extend our market lead. 10 days after my dismissal, I held my first official meeting with my newly assembled innovation team, Miguel and the 5 others from TechVantage. "This is how meetings should be," Anita commented, her relief palpable as she stretched in her new chair. "At TechVantage, we spent half our time explaining basic technical concepts to executives who didn't care and wouldn't remember. Here your expertise actually matters," I said. "That's the foundation we're building." Mid-meeting, my assistant appeared at the door, her expression careful. "Dr. Jennings, TechVantage just announced an emergency leadership change. Victor Lawson is stepping down as CEO effective immediately." The room went silent. Within hours, the industry exploded with the news. TechVantage's board had lost confidence in Victor's leadership following the patent oversight, a failure that had cost the company hundreds of millions in market value. Marjorie Thompson was out too, along with Bradley Worth and 2 other executives. That evening, I received an email from Richard Donovan, TechVantage's new interim CEO, a crisis management specialist with a reputation for fixing disasters. "Dr. Jennings, I've been brought in to clean up this situation. I'd like to discuss a fair licensing arrangement. We're prepared to publicly acknowledge your contributions and make amends for previous management's failures. Can we meet next week?" No lawyers, just 2 professionals. I forwarded it to Greg with a note. Phase 1 complete. His reply, beautifully executed. TechVantage is finally learning an expensive lesson about respecting innovation. I sat in Precision Systems' boardroom, reviewing quarterly results with Greg and the executive team. Under my leadership, we'd launched 3 new products built on my algorithm, each one stealing significant market share from TechVantage. "The licensing deal is finalized," Greg said. sliding a document across the polished table. TechVantage officially acknowledges you as the algorithm's inventor in all materials. They're paying standard rates. We dropped the premium after they agreed to public recognition and a formal apology. I scanned the announcement. TechVantage finalizes licensing agreement with Precision Systems, officially acknowledging Dr. Kira Jennings as inventor of the distributed processing algorithm that powers AccountSphere. We deeply regret our failure to properly recognize Dr. Jennings's contributions during her tenure, stated CEO Richard Donovan. Their stock stabilized, Greg continued. Still 20% lower than before you left, but they'll survive. Richard Donovan implemented new policies on inventor recognition, reportedly modeled directly after our program here. He's trying to rebuild the culture. I nodded slowly, an unexpected wave of emotion hitting me. I never wanted to destroy them. I just wanted them to see me, to acknowledge that I existed, that I mattered. And now the entire industry sees you. There was a knock at the door. My assistant entered with a sleek envelope embossed with gold lettering. Invitation from Women in Technology Leadership Summit, she announced, smiling. They want you as the keynote speaker next month. I opened it, reading the proposed topic. Owning Your Intellectual Value, a masterclass in professional documentation and self-advocacy. You've become an icon, Greg said warmly. The cautionary tale about what happens when companies fail to value their innovators. 3 business schools are writing case studies about this. I thought about that day in the conference room. Marjorie's satisfied smirk, Denise's mechanical checklist, Victor's dismissive email. I thought about 15 years of invisibility, and I thought about Miguel's text. Complete chaos here. What did you do? It was never about revenge, I said quietly, meaning it. It was about recognition. About proving that innovation comes from real people. People who deserve real credit, real respect, real acknowledgement. It was about refusing to disappear. Greg raised his coffee mug. To proper recognition, I clinked mine against his. To never being invisible again. As afternoon sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office, I looked at the industry award on my desk, the one they'd given me last month at the Innovation Excellence Gala. It was engraved with my name, my title, and the words, Creator of the Distributed Processing Algorithm. At 56, I'd finally found what had eluded me for decades. Not just success, not just money, not just a better job title or a corner office. Acknowledgement. My name was now permanently attached to the work I'd created in patents, in press releases, in industry journals, in the consciousness of every tech professional who'd followed this story, exactly where it had always belonged. And Victor Lawson, wherever he was now, had learned the most expensive lesson of his career. Never underestimate the person whose work you've stolen. Never assume silence means acceptance. And never, ever forget that the people you make invisible are still watching, still planning, still capable of reminding the world exactly who created the value you claimed as your own.